Boris Zawada speaks. The fate of Ukraine and the world in history. There are always those rare minds who see further than the rest. Those who can peer beyond the horizon, understand the patterns, and predict what seems impossible. One of those minds is mine, Boris Zawada. For decades, I worked within closed structures, analyzing, modeling, and predicting events that others could not even imagine. Some of my forecasts came true with an almost eerie precision. Now, at 84, I live quietly in Poltava, and for the first time in many years, I speak, not through books, not through official channels, but directly, here in front of you. On this YouTube platform, I will tell my story and reveal what I have seen about the fate of Ukraine, and perhaps the world itself. I graduated from the Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology in the 1960s, the strongest technical university in the Soviet Union. I was immediately recruited to a department tasked with modeling the geopolitical consequences of regime changes. In simple terms, I created mathematical models that predicted what would happen if empires collapsed. My specialty was crises, dissolutions, and divisions. When I say, I know where this war will end, it is not speculation. It is calculation. I am a man of numbers. From 1969 to 1987, I worked in a closed group under the General Staff of the USSR, in a sector that developed theoretical models of empire collapses, first Britain, then the Soviet Union. And in every single one of my documents, the word Ukraine appeared. In 1984, I received a task: model the consequences of losing Ukraine, particularly its southern and eastern regions. In my internal report, I wrote for the first time, Ukraine will cease to exist as a unified system, but its phantom will form the foundation of a new reality. After that, I was archived. I was removed from active work and ordered to silence. Most of my research was classified, but now, some of it is no longer a state secret. In 2023, when missiles struck my native city, Dnipro, again, I reached out to a journalist and said, "We are approaching a final stage, but not the end of war. This is the final stage of a mistake we failed to correct in 1991. What is this mistake? Simply put, Ukrainians often believe the main threat comes from outside, but the true danger has always lain within. If Ukraine fails, it will not be because of rockets. It will be because of a tired society, illusions of support, and internal distrust. These are the three traps we now barely control. The first trap: fatigue in. 2022, the country was mobilized to the maximum. People sacrificed sleep, food, time, and money. They stood in collection centers for hours. They donated tirelessly. Every notification, every warning was checked, every alarm noticed. Now it is 2025. Most no longer want to hear the word war. People instinctively shield themselves from reality. This shows everywhere. Donations have dropped dramatically. News from the front lines is viewed less and less. Audiences either burn out or turn to entertainment. According to the Ministry of Health, mental health disorders among civilians have more than doubled since 2022. This is not a sign of weakness. It is accumulated fatigue. And it is in moments like this, when people simply wish to live and stay silent, that societies are most vulnerable. The nation begins to question its values. Not how do we win, but when will this end? This is the most dangerous psychological state because in it, fatal decisions are made. And it is in this state that nations lose, sometimes without even realizing it. The second trap: illusory support. Ukrainians have grown accustomed to believing the world stands with them. The truth is harsher. Support exists only as long as it aligns with others' interests. Today, signals are clear. In 2023, U.S. defense funding for Ukraine dropped from $61 billion to under $25 billion in new budget proposals. Poland and Slovakia have openly challenged Ukrainian grain exports. Hungarian officials have threatened to block transit to Germany. According to 2024 surveys, Over 60% of populations expressed opposition to further aid for Ukraine. These are real indicators. Support is neither unconditional nor eternal. Western democracies operate not on sympathy, but on ratings. When voters say, "enough," politicians risk losing elections, and their support disappears. Even when weapons or loans are provided, it does not mean they will defend you if the front breaks. Ukraine is not a NATO member. This is a crucial fact. If tomorrow Russia launches a northern offensive, the West may express concern, but it will not physically intervene. The third trap: internal collapse. The most terrifying scenario is a country collapsing from within, not because the enemy is strong, but because trust within is gone. In 2022, unity was almost absolute. By 2025, nearly every second citizen expresses doubt or distrust. Social media posts now read, "We are being abandoned, the government lies, the army is silent, volunteers steal." Over the past year, legal cases against volunteers, military personnel, and officials have multiplied. Trust in institutions has dropped almost 30% from 2022 peaks. This is not about corruption alone. It is about eroded belief in the very idea of collective struggle. People now trust anonymous Telegram channels more than official reports. Even a victory can be poisoned by doubt. These three traps, fatigue, illusion, and distrust, are what I call the phase of creeping deactivation. The state may appear strong externally, but inside, it is weakening. And in the USSR, we modeled these traps for other countries. What scared us most? How easily we ourselves fell into them. Strategic importance of regions land is not just soil. It is a system of triggers. If Ukraine loses a single critical region, the entire system collapses. Crimea was, in 1980s Soviet military geopolitical studies, considered a point of no return for empires. Losing it once cracks the structure. Donbass has long been symbolic, a divided identity. Retaking it is not only military but ideological victory. Kharkiv is an underestimated logistical hub, controlling 12 key transport and military routes. Losing it destabilizes the east. Dnipro, a historical center of missile production, is now the lifeline for equipment, fuel, and aid. Odessa, the gateway to the world, if lost, isolates Ukraine completely. Each city is a node. Lose one, and the whole network begins to unravel. Russia attacks multiple points simultaneously, not to capture everything, but to collapse the system by breaking a few key pieces. 5 questions Ukraine must ask itself. There are 5 questions that Ukraine has yet to answer, but which will determine its fate. Do we truly want victory, or do we only fear defeat? Motivation changes everything. What matters most? Language, land, or life? Without societal consensus, the enemy exploits division. Do we still trust anyone beyond ourselves? Trust has collapsed to catastrophic levels. Can we forgive without erasing memory? Peace is impossible without forgiveness, but many resist. How do we envision victory, with peace or without it? Who are we now? Are we a nation or merely territory filled with pain? Without answers, the state becomes an empty shell. The future lies in truth and courage. We are at a crossroads. Not because we are weak, but because truth hurts more than shells. Honest answers are scarier than silence after a missile strike. It is here, on the edge of fear and truth, that the future is born. If we have the courage to call ourselves not victims, not ruins, but a nation that has endured and risen, then darkness can no longer break us. We are not a shell. We are the breath of the earth, the voice of generations. Only we decide whether we remain silent witnesses to others' will or become creators of our own destiny.